What is up, everybody? Welcome to RotoGrinders MLB Crunch Time here on a Saturday evening. Justin Van Zuden with you, hosting the show. We've got a relatively light slate of games tonight for a Saturday evening, so should be plenty of time to get through all the information we need to get you for your DFS MLB contest. Of course, Crunch Time, as always, sponsored by Fanduel. Appreciate them very much. Be sure to check out the Fanduel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, new users can get a special bonus. Bet $5, get up to $200 in free bets, regardless if your bet wins or loses. So terms and conditions apply on that. But always happy to have them as a great sponsor of the show. And I've got Will Priester alongside me. And Will, we've both navigated. We've gotten connected. We're in the show. A couple old dudes have figured out a new technology platform. We're super excited about that. So, the day is only going to go up from here, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I hopped in earlier and had to figure out how to even hear you guys. I was in the right place, but wrong section. But nevertheless, we are here, and it should be a pretty good slate tonight, I think. Even though it's a 5-gamer, of course, we're not going to have like a tremendous amount of pitching, but that makes it interesting on the hitting side. It's going to get a little different. To see if we can help people make a few dollars along the way.
Yeah, only 4 games on the night slate on FanDuel because they are not including the second game of that doubleheader in San Diego. The first game is still going on. If you're playing over on DraftKings, they've got that second game added, so there are 5 games over there. I've got the FanDuel on the screen share now, so just be aware. We don't have lineups, obviously, for that second game in San Diego yet, so really the only major talking point there will be with pitching anyhow. So we'll make sure to incorporate that analysis in there if you're playing on DraftKings. Had a big slate of afternoon games today. My Cardinals won on a walk-off win earlier, so it's been a good Saturday so far. And some of the top offenses on the afternoon slate have struggled a little bit. Toronto is getting shut out in Detroit right now. The Braves are, the Toronto bottom of the 8th are down 3-0 right now. But the Braves were losing to the Pirates for most of the game and then put up 8 runs, I believe, in the 7th inning. So the Braves, if you played them on the afternoon slate, should be going fairly well for you. What else going on in your Saturday here, Will? We got plenty of time to get through everything today.
Yeah, I went to Lowe's. We're going to have some sort of a family gathering for 4th of July. And so one of the family members' houses that we're going to be at, they didn't have a grill, so I went to Lowe's and took some pictures so they knew which grill to gather, because I found out that I'm going to have to grill for about 50 people. So,
oh wow, that's an inherited job right there.
Yeah, tell me about it. I got asked by my lady. She asked me, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'll do it." And then afterwards, we found out that it was going to be for about 50 people. Turned into a lot more than what I thought about. She started asking me about meats and, which vegetables are going to be on the grill. I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, how many people? 50. Oh, well, that changes things. So anyway, it should be a fun 4th. And that's kind of how my day went. Got involved in Prize Picks. Did really well early this morning for whatever reason with CSGO, and then early MLB just got the best of me. I thought Eric Lauer, even though I was looking at the numbers right in front of me for Washington, I was like, God, these low ISO numbers. I said, oh, Lauer's been okay this year. He should be able to get 5 strikeouts. Well, not so fast. But all in all, I got a few other things right, which will carry us. So hoping to wrap this day up with a really good night outing. And then we'll head on into Sunday morning.
Yeah, the Brewers, if they don't come back, that will be their 8th consecutive loss. So they are scuffling right now. And speaking of scuffling, we got to try to scuffle our way through the pitching on this night slate tonight. You've got Clayton Kershaw coming back from the injured list, but he's been out over a month. Really tough to see him putting up any sort of a ceiling type performance tonight. On DraftKings, you've got Mackenzie Gore in the second game of that doubleheader. Right now, he's I can flip it over to DraftKings here in a bit on the screen share, but he's going to be the clear chalk over there. Otherwise, you're looking at the likes of Carrasco, Lorenzen, Kirby, Montgomery as your pitching options on this night slate. So not a ton to love. What are you looking at?
Carrasco feels like, I guess, the best play, especially when I'm trying to kind of look over plate IQ. And let me just say that Michael Lorenzen keeps getting by with whatever's happening there, but at some point, like, he's just going to have to get shelled again. Like, all the numbers say he's going to get shelled, and then he just puts on a masterful performance and gets out of it. But he's not going to keep surviving with the 18% K rate, a 9.3% walk rate, a 4.84 xFIP. And I'm only bringing that up, Justin, because he's 9K and Carlos Carrasco is 9,500 in a much better matchup against the Angels. And while Carrasco, I don't trust his leash, so to speak. Like, if he gets in a jam, like, they have pulled him. But what I do trust is the fact that the Angels have a tremendous amount of strikeouts in this lineup. And while they do have, two really big power guys in Trout and Ohtani, Carrasco's numbers in the season: 23% K rate, 4.9% walk rate, 4.02 xFIP. Feels like the safe play considering the matchup on the board. If he can get past Trout and Ohtani and maybe get Rendon to give him a few ground ball outs, he's got the strikeouts to get us there. So he's absolutely on FanDuel. I think the top pitcher for me. Really wish Mackenzie Gore was there, because I do feel like, it looks like, at least according to our projections, he's going to face a fair amount of righties tonight against Colorado. Like, we're not even projecting Charlie Blackmon to play. And if that's the case, Mackenzie Gore should have a field day here. He really should. Just in terms of righties this season, 32% K rate, and the walk rate is astronomically low compared to lefties. But, we don't get him on FanDuel. But on DK, I do think he's the guy. I don't think we have to, there's not much we can do to get different anyway if you want fantasy points. So I think it's Gore on DK for sure, and Carrasco on FanDuel. And I think I just feel like that's the right play for sure. I know Montgomery might get a little bit of traction because he's facing the Cubs. Like I understand that, but Montgomery doesn't have enough strikeout upside for me.
Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of Ks. The Cubs do enhance that potential a little bit, so I don't mind him. I tagged him on DraftKings particularly. I think as an SP2, he's fine. He's only 7,600 on DK. Yeah. But yeah, on FanDuel, it's probably not necessary. I'm with you there. I think Carrasco is your choice. Kirby might get a little love on DK as well as an SP2. It's just a little more challenging with obviously the need to roster two pitchers over there, but at least you do have Gore and his big strikeout potential, and potentially a watered down Colorado lineup as well, depending on what they throw out there in the second game of a doubleheader. So are you just completely off of Kershaw with him just coming back tonight?
I just feel like I have to be. Doesn't this scream 4 innings?
Yeah.
4 Ks,
his strikeout prop is only 4.5.
Yeah, I just can't do it. And if he comes down and mows down, this watered down, so to speak, San Francisco Giants lineup, I'm not going to be surprised. In cash or any type of single entry situation, there's no Kershaw. Now, if I'm getting into that 150 area, because of the low, maybe I sprinkle in 5 or 6%, and just say, okay, perhaps he goes out. Perhaps he goes 80 pitches, 5 Ks, 6 innings, doesn't give up any runs, and now he's kind of sitting at that. I think if he got the win, he'd be at 43 fantasy points, and that would be him not giving up any runs. And I'm talking about FanDuel, of course. 6 innings, 5 Ks, no runs, 80 pitches, 43 fantasy points. Maybe, but I don't trust Dave Roberts. I think his last start, he was in single A ball. I think that was his rehab start. I can't trust it.
I can't either. I don't see any reason to take a shot on it. Especially, it's not like you're getting him at a discount. He's the most expensive pitcher. He's 10K plus on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So no Kershaw for me either. Just wait a couple starts and hope he stays healthy and go from there. So anything else you want to go through at pitcher? Otherwise, you can talk about maybe your favorite offensive stacks.
Yeah, nothing at pitcher for me. I mean, I think that's it. I don't think we have anybody else. So on FanDuel, in terms of stacks, um, I'm going back here. I was talking about Michael Lorenzen. I'm going back to the Mets. The Mets continue to be good to me when I try to find these nuggets, and so I think the Mets are going to be good today. Um, Not warm weather, but I mean, should be in the 70s and a little bit of wind blowing out. I think they have a good night. Michael Lorenzen, like I said, he's been getting away with a few things here, but I don't. That's not going to continue all season. The Mets, in terms of their K rates, very low overall as a team against right-handed pitching this season. Against lefties, it's a lot different. But you've got McNeil at 9.7%, Nemo at 16%. Lindor at 19%, and even Alonso is at 21 this season. Escobar 24, Khan at 18, Guillaume at 12. They're just a fairly low strikeout team against righties, and so I'm hoping that even if they don't put up the runs, let's say in the first 2 innings, they can really give Lorenzen some problems and maybe run up the count a bit on him. And I believe that the runs will come. So the Mets are definitely a team that I love. I think a team that everybody's going to be on tonight is the Yankees, for good reason, facing Matt Swarmer. I don't think he's the worst pitcher in the world, but I still think he's, let's go a tad bit unproven. I think his first 2 starts, one was against Milwaukee and the other one was against
the other one was against the Cardinals. Yep.
Yeah.
It was. He pitched fairly well in that game.
And that one is surprising because the Cardinals are a much lower strikeout team than a lot of MLB teams out there. I think they're probably, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're top 5 in strikeouts, aren't they? In terms of
they've started to strike out a little bit more. Of course, Tyler O'Neill's back; he strikes out a lot, but they were just off that day, and it was the first game of a doubleheader, and I think they packed it in after a while. But yeah, the Swarmer looked okay, but like you said, he's pretty unproven. Decent strikeout stuff in the minors. But going into Yankee Stadium to face that offense, a little bit of a different test.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Donaldson will be there. Historically, it's hit pretty well. You've got Rizzo, who historically has hit pretty well, and then you've got Judge and Stanton, in my opinion, that are more streaky hitters. And if those guys get cranked up early, like, just forget it. So I definitely think a lot of people are going to be on the Yankees. On such a small slate, and I think that's a good choice there for sure. The other team, I think the Dodgers, especially on FanDuel, give me the Dodgers for sure because their prices outside of Mookie Betts and Trey Turner, really, I mean, this is really a fairly affordable team, Justin, considering the amount of scoring that they have available. Freddie Freeman's 36, Muncie's 29. I know it's lefty, but I don't care. Will Smith, 31. Justin Turner, 28. Cody's at 29. Chris Taylor, 28. Like, the Dodgers are a fairly cheap team for this slate, so I like them a lot. You typically expect them to have at least 4 or 5 bats, in that upper 3K, lower 4K range, but that's just not the case tonight. So I like them a good bit. And then I know a lot of people, I'm not sure how we feel about Seattle, but I think Seattle's kind of my last team in here. I don't trust Michael Wacha enough to not play a team against him on such a small slate. So while Winker hasn't really, dialed up the power as much this season, I think, as we would have liked, at 2,600 leading off, I think he's fine. Suarez, they've got a fairly good collection of hitting here. And so I don't hate them as well as more of a secondary stack.
Yeah, I like Seattle a decent amount tonight too. I think they're in play. Obviously, the Yankees are going to be the chalk, but the pivots to the Dodgers, the Mets, and Seattle, I think, are really interesting in your GPP builds tonight. And Seattle is the Dodgers aren't going to be super chalky because everyone who wants to spend top dollar is going to go to the Yankees. They'll be a little more popular on FanDuel. When I flip back over there, I'll do that after we get through catcher. But if you look at right now, I've got the Seattle ownership up on DraftKings, and we've got their entire lineup in the single digits. The entire lineup is in the single digits in ownership on a 5-game slate. So that's just definitely it's interesting to say the least. So I like Seattle myself a decent amount tonight. All right, let's talk catcher, and then we'll go from there. What do you like at catcher tonight?
Yeah, definitely think, in terms of the top of the list, man, Will Smith has got to be fairly close. In the 5 hole there, 4,200. That's something I can definitely get behind.
Sure, if we lost Will or if we lost me, but
I think we lost Will. Oh, he's here.
Maybe we got him back. He just
yeah,
froze up for a second.
Yeah, that might have been me, but I was just saying that I don't hate Wilson Contreras as well. I know he's the most expensive bat on the slate in terms of the at the catcher position, but he's still someone I'm interested in. But Will Smith is absolutely my favorite on DK. I think he's for sure the play there.
Yeah, I like Smith. Tagged him up in lineup HQ as well tonight. I think hitting 5th against a lefty. I like him a little bit more than Contreras if you're spending top dollar tonight. Austin Nola, again, presuming he's in the lineup in the second game of a doubleheader. Right now we've got projected as chalky because he's the best value, but again, got to keep an eye on that lineup to see if he's in there in the second game of a doubleheader. And I'm going to peek right now to see if he caught the first game here. I'm pulling open that box score. He did not. So Alfaro caught the first game of that doubleheader for the Padres. So pretty safe to assume that Nola should be in there for game 2. He'll be the value pick. So Smith and Nola, I think, are your 2 choices there. I will pivot the screen share back to FanDuel, and I'll let you take over for first base.
Yeah, for sure. So at first base, I mean, no secret here. I've been talking about the Mets. It's Pete Alonso for me at 4K. I like him a lot. Like Anthony Rizzo as well. Like Freddie Freeman in a lefty spot. Those are my top 3 guys. When we start getting into some of our other stacks, Justin, about the Seattle Mariners. So of course Ty France is there at 3,400. He's absolutely in play as well.
Yeah, I think France and GPP is one of my favorites. Again, common theme. I kind of like the Mariners as a sneaky team. And even Freeman, we talked about the Dodgers. And I think the interesting part is the Dodgers aren't going to be super chalky tonight, as you mentioned. Again, relatively speaking, and on FanDuel, we've only got 4 games. But people tend to shy away from those lefty-lefty matchups, guys like Freeman against a lefty. But, Sam Long is just coming out of the bullpen. He's pitching 3 or 4 innings max probably tonight. So I don't mind those lefties for the Dodgers.
For sure.
All right. Again, if you got questions for us during the show, hit us up in the RotoGrinders Crunch Time chat, MLB Crunch Time Discord channel at rotogrinders.com/Discord. If you're a premium subscriber at RotoGrinders, we can take your questions in there in the MLB Crunch Time channel. And also, if we've got some time at the end of the show, we can take a few from the YouTube chat as well. All right, let's move on to second base.
Yeah, second base, I think, Trevor Story may end up being just astronomically high on FanDuel by default. I don't think for me it's probably Max Muncy and Gleyber Torres, and not just because of the discount, but once again, Max Muncy, lefty, going to be a lot of people just aren't going to be gravitating that spot, and then Gleyber Torres, of course, in Yankee Stadium. One of the best spots of the night. I think he's in play. And then Adam Frazier, mostly everything's going to be around my stacks tonight, Justin, because the slate is so small. But Adam Frazier's there. And you've got Abraham Toro as well at 7, batting at 7 hole. I think him and Frazier are fairly interchangeable in my book. They're not going to have the ownership, so I don't think it really matters which one you play. If I was building multiple lineups, and let's say I had Frazier in one, I'd probably just build the same one and throw Toro in it as an alternate, because both of them could easily end up having they're around the same median projection, I'm sure. And if either one of them outscores the other by a few points, that could be the difference between 10th place and first place. and I'd hate to miss out on first place because I just didn't build one extra lineup and swap out the 6 and 7 guys. So that's what I'd be doing between Frazier and Toro.
Yeah, don't mind mixing and matching that with those Seattle second basemen. I'm surprised. Our projections have Muncy pretty chalky. I think he'll end up being a little lower than that. I know Story is expensive there on FanDuel, so I don't know. Maybe those are about right, but
I'm shocked he's got more ownership than Torres tonight. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I think that might flip. I think Torres will be a little higher. Torres homered last night. People see lefty on Muncy struggled a bit this year, notwithstanding that, big home run against the White Sox the other day after the intentional walk on a 1-2 count from Tony La Russa to a Turner that's gotten all the headlines. But yeah, I think maybe Torres will end up being the most popular, but interesting tournament pivots here. And again, we both kind of like Seattle a little bit, so I don't mind those guys. On the cheap, they're basically min salary on FanDuel, pretty cheap on DraftKings as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's pivot on over to third base. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, I don't think I have to sell anyone on Rafael Devers. I haven't really talked about stacking Boston, and I'm not really going to be stacking Boston, but he is probably one of the best options. But of course, once again, everything is mostly going to revolve around my stacks tonight. So Eugenio Suarez will be on my list. Eduardo Escobar is absolutely going to be on the list. Justin Turner, once again, I talked about him at 2,800. That one it really caught me by surprise there at 2,800 price tag. And then I'm almost positive, Justin, I'm not looking at the ownership. I'm just looking at the players right now, but I'm almost positive Josh Donaldson's got to be probably the highest on third baseman.
He is.
For good reason at 2,800. So I am in on Josh Donaldson as well, but I don't have him valued above Suarez or Turner or Eduardo Escobar. I feel like they're all fairly equal in my book.
Yeah, I mean Donaldson only being 2,800 on FanDuel, hard to ignore hitting second in that lineup, and we got him at close to 50% on FanDuel. Ooh. So I don't hate the idea, simple game theory perspective of pivoting. And the one Seattle guy that I think you can't, even if you're not stacking Seattle, Waka's been a reverse splits guy for a lot of his career. He's always struggled with right-handed power bats. Not that Suarez is elite at this stage of his career by any means, but you're getting Suarez at basically a sixth of the ownership of Donaldson, Rendon if you're not on Carrasco, Justin Turner, like all these guys, almost a tenth of the ownership of Donaldson. And this is a pretty deep position, but you see a lot of these guys third base only in terms of eligibility. So, if you start with Donaldson, then your options are obviously limited to be able to load yourself with other players at the position. So I really like Donaldson, but I don't have him tagged on FanDuel simply because I just, I don't think that you necessarily need to go there. Now, if you're playing the early slate, FanDuel did include the first two games of these two 7:00 games as part of their earlier slate. Obviously, you can use, Muncy or Donaldson on those, and then maybe pivot away for the later night slate if you're playing that. But if I pivot this back to DraftKings, obviously you'll see that we've got an extra game with that San Diego game, and nobody's playing the Colorado offense, but obviously with San Diego, if Machado's in there tonight, then then he'll help to soak up some of that third base ownership as well. So I will see what we've got him at, and so we've got Machado at about 19% ownership on the DK slate. So an additional option if you're playing over there. And Escobar is pretty cheap on DraftKings at 3,200 if you need a value option.
That's incredibly cheap.
Yeah, that's a pretty cheap price for sure. So he helps make those lineups work. All right, let's go ahead and move along to shortstop.
Yeah, shortstop, I mean, fairly straightforward position. Like on FanDuel, you got so many guys that you can mix and match. But I mean, Trey Turner he's definitely in play. Lindor's probably going to be my favorite tonight, just because once again I'm looking for the Mets to really attack Lorenzen here. But Trey Turner, you can't ignore what this guy can do. Pretty much his overall game. But Turner and Lindor are probably my favorites. And just in terms of how the slate is broken out, Justin, I may actually just only play those two. I know we got J.P. Crawford there, and once again, I like J.P. in terms of my stacks for sure. But I don't know if he outscores Turner and or Lindor. So I feel like with the way the slate's breaking out, I feel like there's a lot more value at second base. I'd rather just kind of spin down there, and third base, spin down there. Shortstop, I think I just want Turner, Lindor. Even if I'm running 150, well, on FanDuel, it's a little bit different because I could run J.P. Crawford in utility, right? And so I could still get him and one of Trey. But I think what I would do is I'd run Trey and Lindor 50% apiece. And I know that's really aggressive, but I just think those are going to be the top two highest scoring shortstops on the slate.
Yeah, I really like Turner tonight as well. And I think, again, if you're not playing Kirby, you can mix and match. You can throw some Bogarts in there. I would be fine with him. But the position does drop off pretty good. And you get past Turner, Lindor, Bogarts, and Crawford, who is hitting cleanup tonight. You get beyond those guys, it gets a little thin, unless you want to play Kiner Falefa, or our projections show Ha-Seong Kim with some ownership, again, assuming he's in there in the second game, but it's not like he's a must-have option by any means. So I like the idea of spending up at this position, particularly on DraftKings. If you use a cheap SP2, you should be able to get there, depending on how much you're prioritizing the Yankees. But it's pretty thinned out if you're looking for a punt option there. So. Yeah. All right. Again, if you have questions, we just go through outfield, and then we'll take questions for the final 5 minutes or so here. RotoGrinders Discord channel is quiet right now, so feel free to throw some questions in there if you have them. Otherwise, I can grab some from the YouTube chat. So where are you looking in the outfield?
Yeah, man. So in outfield, once again, everything's going to pretty much revolve around the stacks. Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, those are going to be kind of, I guess, the top two big spend-ups. Because those guys are both over 4K. Of course, I don't hate Giancarlo Stanton. I talked about Bellinger as well a little bit and how cheap these bats were from the Dodgers. I know it'll be lefty a little while. I don't hate Bellinger at 7K. Once again, Chris Taylor, he's 2,800 in the 8th spot. I'd be all over him. The Mets lineup hasn't come out yet, but Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil are definitely going to be two of my favorites, which I can get McNeil at second as well. But Nimmo and McNeil are going to be there. Con at 27. I love these Mets tonight. I'm all over them. Jesse Winker, 2,600. He's on the list. And so there you kind of have it. I mean, that's everything is going to revolve around those stacks. And so I'm probably going to have a big collection of cheap outfielders versus the expensive ones, just because of how the slate is broken down tonight.
All right, very good. The Mets guys, particularly here on DraftKings, are pretty cheap. They're not that outrageously expensive on FanDuel either. If you're looking to be contrarian against Kershaw, Austin Slater as a value, I don't think is a horrible pick. So obviously, I think you covered most of it there in the outfield, and we'll make sure we'll get through these questions here for the last 5 minutes. A few people in the YouTube chat have asked about Kershaw because he's only averaged like 80 pitches this season anyway. I mean, he could be at like 65 or 70 tonight. I know the Giants lineup looks bad, but they're pesky. And I just really don't see the Giants the Dodgers aren't going to push Kershaw by any means. If you feel great about it, go ahead. But I'm just really nervous. I think that salary is best used elsewhere tonight. And several people have asked for home run calls. So we'll maybe give a couple out. Who do you like to hit a homer tonight there?
Well, I'm going to this Mets game, and I know I've been talking about it, but give me Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor to send one out of the park. Give me back to back here. In terms of the Dodgers, give me Will Smith. In terms of the Yankees, I'm gonna go a little bit. I don't want to say a little bit off the board, but I think everybody would probably expect Judge or Donaldson. Give me Anthony Rizzo for the Yankees.
All right, very good. We do have a few questions now in the Discord chat, so I will throw those out. Candace asking if a 4-4 stack is okay on DraftKings tonight. I do think that is just fine. BHB asking for a favorite punt outfield in DK Cash. So I'm not sure how cheap we got to go for a punt. Who are your favorite values in the outfield? Like those Mets guys are nice and cheap that we just talked about.
I mean, the Mets.
That's not. I guess 3,800 for Nimmo. That's not really punt level, maybe.
I mean, but that's Jesse Winker's 39.
Marsh is 32. He's leading off for the Angels, but against Carrasco.
I guess maybe tell us how cheap. I mean, you got Aaron Hicks at 3,100 in that Yankee spot. That's not.
Yeah. Otherwise, bad. You're probably going with one of the Padres, and their lineup is not out yet. But they definitely have to start like one of Grisham and Azokar. Whether they start Grisham against the lefty, I don't know. I think he did homer in the first game. But I mean, that's bare minimum salary. So he says under 3K. So that's going to remove like all those 3K exact guys. But
on this slate, though, you got to think anything in the 35 to 3,800 range is fairly okay.
He clarified and said he needs one guy under 3K.
Oh, well.
I'd put Grisham in there for now. If he doesn't start, pivot it to Azokar. I mean, the Padres project fairly well against the lefty, and like Slater, I'm not using in cash because there's pinch hit risk. Lagares, not really. I mean, Trammell's hitting 8th. There honestly isn't anybody under 3K. Other than those, maybe one of those Padres guys.
You can play Hayward from Chicago and hope he dials back the clock today.
He hit his first home run of the year last night, so maybe he's ready. JMVP has asked if it's too nuts to stack Angels in a DK single entry. Frankly, it's a 5-game slate. I don't think that's nuts. I like Carrasco a lot. I mean, the Mets aren't going to, or the Angels aren't going to project as the best offense, and they've lost something like 70 out of their last 71 games. It feels like at this point, but it's certainly not nuts on a short slate. Like and Chiefs as well. Our off the board stack is Seattle, yes. But I'm certainly not going to talk anybody off of the Angels, particularly against a chalky pitcher. YouTube chat, last question, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. We have hit lock, and actually he's probably not going to be able. He was asking which Dodger to sit. Peter Porker was asking which Dodger to sit out of Bellinger, Taylor, Trey, Smith, and Mookie Betts, but that game just locked, so you're probably not going to be able to edit that at this point. That answer would be Bellinger for me. Which one I would leave out? Let's see. I think we've gotten through all the other questions. So, anything else we missed that you see there, Chief?
No, I think we're good. I fully expect, some weird team that, maybe hit a few runs that we didn't talk about. Like, of course, Boston could go out and have a good night against Kirby. Like, something like that could happen. But I think we gave everybody our most genuine thoughts, and hopefully it comes to fruition. Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Seattle. Like those are kind of at least my handful of teams that I'm keying in on.
Yeah, sounds good. Definitely Seattle from the ownership perspective, and the other ones are your top projected offenses tonight. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and call it a Saturday evening. We'll let you all get back to your Saturday evening activities, and hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. So thanks to Chief for joining me. I'm Justin. Thanks to Devin for helping us out here with a new technology platform and getting us through the show without issues. We always appreciate his hard work, and we hope you join us tomorrow. I will be back at what the new Sunday lock times are 1:30 Eastern. So I always get confused with the new lock times on Sundays. But, thank Peacock for that 2-hour window, so the games don't start till 1:30 now. So we're on the air around 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. Haven't looked at I can't remember now who's on with me tomorrow, but I will be back for that. And again, thanks everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will catch you tomorrow here on Crunch Time. Have a great one.